even Batman questions his career choices from time to time, as he does in I Am the Night, which we're going to talk about right now. Hello friends, welcome to the show. And 25 years ago today, the episode I Am the Night aired for Batman the Animated Series, November 9th, 1992.
Sometimes, old friend, I wonder if I'm really doing any good out there.
If you're like me and grew up with Batman the Animated Series and became a huge Batman fan today, then this show is for you. We talk about each and every episode of Batman the Animated Series on the 25th anniversary of their original air date. So I hope you'll consider sticking around and subscribing to the channel so that we can discuss our favorite memories of Batman the Animated Series.
We got enough on him. What are we waiting for?
This episode really gives a lot of credit to us 10-year-olds that were watching this episode to give them a little bit of a leadway and not necessarily a heavy plot, but a deep, very adult storyline. Not an adult storyline like what you're thinking, but I mean a very mature storyline. Maybe that's the better for mature audience. No, that's worse, I think.
This was a setup. The jazz man was ready for it.
It's episodes like this that, whether the producers knew they were doing it or not, is what made this show last as long as it has and still holds up today. And I'm going to dig into that in more detail to follow. And be sure to stick to the end because I'm going to rank this episode in my running list of favorite episodes that I've reviewed so far. So don't bail before that. You want to see where this one places in the list.
Aren't you going home? It's almost 3 a.m.
Promises to keep, Leslie.
But before we get into all that, I'm going to do my quick 45-second rundown of this episode. Alfred finds Batman in the Batcave, and Batman has contemplated whether he's doing any good and is really digging into this. Alfred gives him the item that he requests. He goes to Crime Alley, meets up with Leslie, drops a few flowers, runs into a couple of thugs, and tries to set this boy on the right path. And then he is late for an appointment that he was supposed to meet up for a sting operation with Gordon and Bullock. And in the process of trying to stop the jazz man who has it in for Gordon gets shot, goes to the hospital. Now that just sends Batman into a spiral. He talks with Barbara, talks with Dick Grayson to try to get him to snap out of this. And meanwhile, the jazz man escapes from prison and is going after Gordon. And Batman finally comes out of his stupor and goes to the hospital to stop Jazzman. He does, and then as he leaves there and finds out that Gordon is very indebted into his service and for helping him out, that he sees that boy from the beginning getting onto a bus and he accuses him of stealing the briefcase, but finds out that Batman actually set him on the right path in the beginning of the episode. That's it. We're going to 60 seconds. No ifs, ands, or buts.
It's gotta be now.
But this is the episode that I've been asking for. When we talked about Appointment in Crime Alley, how there just wasn't enough substance to it, and some of these other episodes that are just lacking, this is the type of episode that I'm looking for. There isn't a Rogues Gallery villain. There isn't some major twisty kind of reveal plot. It's almost just a day in the life of Batman. I mean, a very specific, troubling day for Batman. It's just a great, dramatic story.
I've put out a few fires, yes. Won a few battles. But the war goes on, Alfred.
The reason I say at the beginning that it's episodes like this that makes the show last, they were making a show that was built for longevity. They weren't just thinking about, and they meaning the producers, they weren't just thinking about how do we entertain audience of 10-year-olds.
Batman.
Which they did that very well, and there was some fun stuff. There's some colorful villains, some colorful episodes. There's some great characters and fun Dick Grayson and quips and jokes and all those snazzy things that entertain audiences. But then they have episodes like this that have a meatier story or have a more meaningful story to it. Adults can watch, or that we watch as kids and we can grow into it. So this show really grew up with us because of episodes like this. I watch this now as an adult. I mean, I use that term loosely, that really got something out of this. And I think that that's why the show holds up so well today as it did 25 years ago.
Every year I come here, I wonder if it should be the last time. If I should put the past behind me. Try to lead a normal life.
Now, digging into some of the elements of this episode, one thing that struck me is that it's almost like this is further along in the series, or it represents an older Batman. Some of these elements where he's really kind of just wore down from the job and contemplating whether he's doing any good. That's an older Batman speaking. And he's also like, look at the animation of him. He's really bulked up in this episode. Like he's pretty beefy in this. That I think is fitting for the story that they're telling. I mean, right off the bat, seeing Batman sitting on the throne, just that image itself really stuck with me. Just to see the Dark Knight in the dark kind of contemplating things is, I mean, that's a heavy image even for a kid to see.
Master Bruce, are you all right, sir?
I'm tired, Alfred.
And the reason, too, that I feel like this episode is later in the series, it feels later in the series, is, again, we're seeing him with Leslie in Crime Alley placing flowers where his parents had fallen. And to see that again and see him in a different tone, this isn't like it's just a year later. It's several years after we first saw him in Appointment in Crime Alley, because his attitude around it is just very different than it was the first time we saw it.
You seem quieter than usual tonight.
And also in that we see this conviction to pay his respects for his parents, despite the fact that it's pulling him away from a responsibility that he has to meet up with Gordon, which ultimately sends this whole story in motion, is that he wasn't there when he was supposed to be, which caused them to jump the gun and Gordon to get shot. And now he's stuck in this conundrum. And
I should have been there.
You can't be everywhere.
This also is the first appearance of Barbara Gordon. So again, it's introducing the character Barbara before she becomes Batgirl to the storyline. So we start to see this world building. We start to see these elements coming together.
I feel so helpless. I can't just sit here. I've got to do something.
The scene where Batman is talking to Dick Grayson about the burden that he carries, knowing full well that he accepted this responsibility to live by the night and to be the night and to protect.
Sooner or later I'll go down. It might be the Joker or Two-Face or just some punk who gets lucky. My decision, no regrets.
And he's accepted that and he's owned that.
How long before I let someone else I care about down? Leslie, Alfred, you.
That's something that comes up a lot in the comics, of people close to him getting killed, like Jason Todd, or injured, hurt, like Batgirl does before she becomes the Oracle. Kind of building those elements into this kids show, I think it's really given the kids some credit. It's handled well, because like that scene, I don't particularly remember seeing that. It wasn't like that stuck with me and goes, oh my gosh, Batman's talking about dying. But now I can watch it later, and now I pick up on that.
When you look too long into the abyss looks back through you. Maybe it's time for Batman to return to the night that spawned him, before anyone else gets hurt.
Is because this one has such a full story to it, and they are able to still, on top of that, squeeze in this neat little subplot or B-plot to the story that is wrapped up really nicely when we meet the kid in the beginning.
Works every time.
Hustling some people for money, and Batman delivers him to Leslie to enter the mission, and then we almost forget about him and we go about our ways and we move along. Although I will mention that is in fact a young Seth Green in that role.
Willie, Monk, yeah, I was just looking for you guys.
Now that Gordon is well, Gordon assures Batman that he's doing good, and
Maybe if I'd been younger, could have been like you. Always wanted to be a hero.
You are a hero, Jim.
And the episode could have ended there. Then we go back outside and we meet up again with that kid from the beginning.
So I'm heading back home. And I guess I kind of owe it to you, Batman. You probably saved my life.
And again, it makes it feel like that mini movie of a couple of different storylines, a couple little through lines there that all work together and all fit nicely in the end.
Gotta keep fighting, never stop. What I try to live by.
So when it comes time to rank this episode, it's a great episode, despite the fact that there is no rogues gallery villains, despite the fact it's kind of a small stakes story. It's just kind of an internal story about Batman and his psyche of something that he's going through. The animation's fantastic in this episode. I started looking towards the top of the list of where to place this. I ended up putting it at the number 6 slot of my favorite episodes so far, beating out Joker's Favor, because I like the elements of Joker's Favor, that threat that hangs over Charlie's head and seeing the regular Joe kind of get one over on the Joker is a great fun episode. But this one, it has a more mature plot to it. This is the type of episode that is the reason why we're talking about this show 25 years after it originally aired.
You're going down for this! I ain't talking law! I'm talking you and me!
So what do you think of the episode? Do you agree that this is the type of episode that makes this show last as long as it did? It's an episode that we can still enjoy as adults just as much, if not more, than we did when we were kids. Let me know in the comment section if you too appreciate this episode for its longevity. I'll be back tomorrow, Friday, November 10th, with a fan favorite, Almost Got Him. So hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss that episode. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode, and I'll see you soon.